Franchise tag day has come and went, and one of the Chicago Bears reported big targets is still available out there on the market. But should the Chicago Bears have a backup plan in case Trey Smith does decide to re-sign with the Kansas City Chiefs or sign with any other team for that matter? We're going to talk about some of those players that could be backup plans and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, we made it through franchise tag day without Trey Smith being franchise tagged, right? But with that said, I mean, they still do have time, right? And, you know, it's even been reported that maybe the transition tag is more likely on Trey Smith than the franchise tag. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. But as of right now, it's been quiet go so far in that. And listen, when it comes down to it, Trey Smith is the guy right now for the Chicago Bears. Now, I know that he's not a perfect candidate. He has some issues and some things that you guys have pointed out, but Trey Smith would be such a large and a huge signing for the Chicago Bears, both in the fact of what he brings to that offensive line, but also what it helps to start kind of guiding and showing how aggressive the Chicago Bears are going to be. So as the franchise tag, did I mix franchise and transition? As the franchise and transition tags keep coming down, you know, Trey Smith seems like he's still going to be an option there for the Bears. But that's just the first hurdle, right? Trey Smith clearing being tagged, as Adam Schefter did point out and allude to, that it's probably unlikely that he's going to get tagged. That's just the first step. Then the Bears have to decide on what money are they willing to pay Trey Smith. He's going to garner a lot of money when it comes down to it, right? And we'll see what happens as well with Travis Kelce and how much that brings into it if he does retire and it frees up $17 million in their cap space. That may increase the chances of Kansas City bringing back Trey Smith, but as of right now, it does not seem like the franchise tag is going to be something, again, depending on how much you listen to Adam Schefter and believe Adam Schefter in that case. But now that the window's open, it is what it is. Now, of course, bringing in Trey Smith, in my opinion, should be target number one. I've said that all offseason. The Bears should be at Trey Smith's door, the opening of free agency, the first moment they should talk to him, they should be able to, right? But the problems only start, not necessarily problems, the next questions only start if Trey Smith does escape without being tagged. Is that next is how much do you pay him, right? He's going to get paid well over $20 million, right? So the Bears, you know, in having their $80 million in cap space, the fifth most in the NFL, he's going to get market resetting type money. That's just what's going to happen with Trey Smith, right? And so he's going to set the marker for years and years to come, but the Bears still do need to have plan B. And I don't expect the Bears to go into it with the situation that it's either we get Trey Smith or it's a bust at the guard position. No, you got other guys that make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears, right? Will Fries is a guy that I've talked a lot about, right? He's going to be highly paid himself. He's going to be highly paid and regarded himself. Make no mistake about it, right? But it's going to be probably considerably less than Trey Smith, unless, you know, we'll see how the market resets him. He's 26 years old himself. You know, a player that brings a lot, 6'6", 305 pounds. This guy in some ways even fits the profile that Ben Johnson likes on that offensive line a little bit more, right? So Will Fries is a great plan B option. I would say, listen, if you get Will Fries, yeah, I know there are going to be some Bears fans that only pay attention to the names that are going to be disappointed if we don't get Trey Smith. But Will Fries is a damn good option there for the Chicago Bears, I feel. The next guy up is Kevin Zeitler. Now, this is a guy that we've talked about before. He's a guy that's played under Ben Johnson, you know, this past season as well in Detroit, but he's 34 years old, right? Now, I think if you do draft if you sign Will Fries, that in going through your draft process, you may look at a guy that can eventually take over that role for him, but he's still a guy that's a very attractive option here for the Chicago Bears that can really help shore up some things as well. So, you know, those are the two guys that if the Bears can't get Trey Smith, those guys' backup plans are pretty damn solid for the Bears. Now, of course, you want to do some other things if it's an older guy like Zeitler, but I think that that's a really good one. And hell, I would love to see them get Zeitler regardless of whatever they do. If you can bring in Zeitler and a Trey Smith or a Zeitler and a Will Fries, listen, sign me the hell up for that, right? But then the Bears also have the options that we talked about yesterday in the draft, right? There are a lot of linemen that could make the move over to guard, even though they're listed as tackles in the draft, and that could make some sense for the Bears overall. Like, the key thing here is talent. Talent. Bringing that talent into the offensive line, that's going to be the key thing here. And so the Bears have a great opportunity to add a lot of talent here for the team. And that's just really what you want to look at. So as we inch closer and closer to free agency, of course, once the franchise tag, all those goes out, which reportedly this is probably going to be a fairly quiet year in regards to franchise tags in general, right? The Bears aren't expected to use their franchise tag on anybody. We'll see what happens here, right? So the Bears have that opportunity to really shore up, fix, develop, and get their offensive line in a place that we all know that it needs to be in. So we'll see what the future does hold there. But with that said, as you know, the franchise tag window completely passes and things like that, we already know the Bears aren't really going to use the franchise tag. There are no candidates really on the roster. Maybe if Tevin Jenkins was healthy and wanted to go, that'd be a different thing. Keenan Allen, maybe if we didn't have a DJ Moore would be a thing if we needed a veteran there. But I think either way, and I think we're starting to see like Tevin Jenkins and Keenan Allen have played their last games in Chicago Bears uniforms. That's just consistently being talked more and more and more about when it comes down to it, is that that we've seen the last of them. Courtney Cronin came in as well and said, basically alluded to the same thing as well. Courtney Cronin mentioning that at 33, and it's obvious that Keenan Allen isn't the receiver that he was before. I don't know if you can say that based off how bad the Bears' offense was for so large a part of last year. He was still second in receiving yards on the team last year, but you got a guy in the wing in Romo Dunze that just makes sense to kind of prioritize there and a focus on the development there than anything else when it comes down to. So I think that's what you're going to look at in Tevin. It just comes down to health for Tevin Jenkins, man. It's really unfortunate when it comes down to it because Tevin is, when you look at him just on the football field, he brings a lot of what you want. He brings a lot of what you need, but he just can't stay healthy. He cannot stay healthy. And the availability sometimes is the best ability. And so with those questions that lead there, it just is what it is when it comes down to it. The Bears don't have really the place right now to where they can take on a project like that. Unless they strike out in some other offensive linemen and Tevin is willing to take a 1-year prove-it deal, I think the writing's on the wall that Tevin Jenkins' time with the Chicago Bears, that's also up. At least that's my opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. Now, a couple of episodes ago, I talked about and asked, what is the position group that is most needed to be addressed outside, of course, the offensive line? And when I asked that question, I expected the responses to be, a lot on the defensive line. I didn't expect that to be a big part of what happened in the conversation there. And I think when you really look at where the Bears' defensive line is right now, that picture gets louder and louder. The fact that, especially at the tackle position, the Bears got to do something extremely focused and important here to look at it. When you look at it, let's go ahead and grade the Chicago Bears defensive lines right now. So in grading the Chicago Bears defensive line, of course, we got to start at Andrew Billings, right? Last year, 2024, 13 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 3 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, but that was only in 8 games. When you look at it in that aspect, that only happening in 8 games, you had 9 more games left to play. That Billings was on pace to have a really big season for the Chicago Bears, just like he did the year prior, right? He became such an important part of that. And with him being back from injury, it's definitely going to help. But I think that highlights the fact of how much the Bears do need to prioritize that defensive line. Javon Dexter as well last season. Solid season. 51 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, 19 QB hits, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 pass breakup in 15 games for Javon Dexter. You love to see that. Javon Dexter made the second-year leap that we wanted and needed to see from a young player like Javon Dexter. And that's great to see. He was a breakout player for the Bears last year, even throughout all the turmoil and things like that. You look at his role and how that's going to increase under Dennis Allen as well. Listen, there's a ton of potential there for what we saw last year to just be a base and then him to even jump off that, even have a better season next year under Dennis Allen. So that's the part that you like to be in for as well. But then after that, it severely falls off. You got Zach Pickens, who last year, 19 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 sack, 2 QB hits in 9 games. Zach Pickens has always had better potential than what we've seen in reality from him on the football field. It's just always been that way for Zach Pickens. But I think that even if you want to still invest in the future, like because you got a new coaching staff coming in with a new eye on things, even if you look down on that, Zach Pickens just is not broken out yet. So if the new coaching staff comes in and they see that potential in Pickens, I think that it comes down to you still have to shore up other things. You still have to have a better insurance policy, right? 9 games, he was healthy scratch by the end of the season as well, which is concerning. So there's not a whole lot there about Zach Pickens that you look at and say, this is adamantly a guy that is 100% part of our future, right? Byron Coward last year, in 2024, 26 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 4 QB hits in 15 games. A really good depth piece. I think Coward is a very, very, very good depth piece, and I'm not mad at it, right? I think when you look at him and DeMarcus Walker as being kind of your rotational pieces there on that interior defensive line, I think you got some solid guys there, right? Now, he is an unrestricted free agent this offseason, so doesn't know if he's going to come back, but he does fit the scheme that Dennis Allen is bringing in, and I would like to see the veteran Byron Coward come back. And then after that, Chris Williams. Listen, 17 games, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 7 QB hits. You can look at him and say he's a dependable option, but I still think you need to upgrade there, right? So the interior defensive line is a position of need for the Chicago Bears and a position that's worthy of focusing on heading into this offseason. I think if you can upgrade that position, right, whether it be in depth or whether it be a young, promising guy that can eventually start with Javon Dexter long-term, if you're looking at it from that aspect of it, or you can also get creative, right? We saw last year Eric Washington get creative and use Austin Booker, some on the interior defensive line. Daniel Hari, some on the interior defensive line. Of course, we don't know if DeMarcus Walker is going to come back for sure, but use him, of course. He's the flex piece on that defensive line. But I do think we need some work on the interior defensive line as well as the edge. The edge is already known, right? I'm in no way saying that the edge comes before, the defensive tackle comes before the edge by this conversation, but I am saying that it is still something that we need to focus on. Now, if we have health and we do make a huge upgrade on the edge position, maybe what we're getting from the interior defensive line is going to be fine. It's going to be okay. It's going to be a set there, right? But I think overall you're still looking at making some improvement there when it comes down to it. And we'll see. We'll see what the future ends up holding for that and what ends up happening there. But I think overall we really have to get more production out of that interior defensive line. I think that we will. I think that we will. I don't see a world in which the Bears go into this and they stumble. I just don't see that happening, right? But we'll see what the future does hold. With that said, before we get up out of here today, I do want to talk about a number of coaching changes that the Bears made, smaller coaching changes, and I think this points towards why the Chicago Bears have not officially announced the staff because they're not done with the staff. So Anthony Blevins, a former assistant for the Giants and for the Cardinals, he's been named as the assistant special teams coach for the Chicago Bears. So it comes down with that one. You also look at Kevin Koch, is how you pronounce it. He was assistant the past 3 years and defensive quality coach in 2023 and 24, and he's remaining on as the Bears assistant linebackers coach. And then, so those are the two kind of smaller jobs that the deals that the Bears have reached to. So the coaching staff is still being kind of constructed, and I think that that's a good thing overall to kind of see what that future is going to hold for that. But Ben Johnson stated what his goal is coming into the season. The goal is still to win, right? That's what the Bears are trying to do here. They are trying to win. That's what Ben Johnson wants to bring here, even in year one. He wants to win. He wants to build something that can win and can sustain here. And so we'll see what the future does hold for that, for the Chicago Bears, if they can get that done. I think that they will. I'm not too worried about it overall, but we'll see what the future does hold there. But still some coaching things being done here. But with that said, I do want to dive a little bit into the mailbag today. We're going to get into one voicemail that we got. This one's from BC, always right.
Hey, what up, Brother Hayes? It's your man, BC. Hey, normally I'm always right, but bro, I don't know if I'm right on this one, so I need you to help me out, man. Put your franchise tag cap on. Here's my question. If a team is going to franchise tag or transition tag a player don't they have to be under the cap, have enough cap space to do so? Because everybody keeps talking about Kansas City can franchise tag Trey Smith or transition tag Trey Smith. Well, if he signed it, don't they have to pay him that 20 to 22 million, which they don't have right now? So at minimum, wouldn't Kansas City have to restructure some contracts, cut some players, and have that money available before they franchise tag them, or are they allowed to franchise tag it and figure it out later? That's my question, man. I don't know if you know the answer, but anyway, man, bear down to the world blow up. This BC.
All right, so great question there on the ability for Kansas City to franchise on transition tags Trey Smith. Here's the thing. I don't think that you have to be under that per se. I think you just have to get under it by a certain time. I think a deadline is what it is. But yeah, I mean, you look at the franchise tag for him is 25-ish million, 22-ish million, as you said. So listen, but the thing is, I don't think it's going to happen. I think everybody's pointing to the fact that it doesn't seem like the franchise tag is going to happen for Trey Smith, and good. That helps out the Chicago Bears, right? Like that's the thing that we're in it for. We're trying to help our own team, F the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So, if the Bears can swoop in there and take advantage of this situation where it is right now with Trey Smith, that's what you want to do. That's the position that you want to be in. You want to be in a position of where you can get guys in here. But the Bears, it's very much so still going to be a battle to get him in here, to lock him in. It's going to be a battle to get him in here. And there are going to be teams that are lined up at his door to make him a member of their team when it's all said and done. That's just going to happen. If the Bears can be the team that can get that deal done, great. That's what I hope for. But we'll see what the future does hold for that. We'll see what the future holds for that. But yeah, the Trey Smith seems like he's going to get into unrestricted free agency, barring Travis Kelce officially announcing his retirement. If that happens, that does change some things. But I think overall, Trey Smith's going to be out there available, and we'll see what the future does hold, man. But all right, with that said, let's get into one more voicemail, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Old Darius from Dallas, man. I just want to comment real quick on Hayes. You've been talking about this safety position, and real big on it for some reason. And hey, maybe you're seeing something that I'm not seeing. But it is definitely, I would say, a need based on how different that secondary looked without Brisker, in my opinion. So I do have one small little adjustment. And you already shut me down on this last season, but I'm going to reintroduce it and see if you'll consider it now. All right. We all kind of down on Tyreek Stevenson, man. All right. So what if we just put him back here, man? What if we put him at strong safety? He's a physical guy that will come up and hit. He's got the athletic ability to cover over the field. All right. We get Brisker out of that strong safety position, so he's not in the box coming down, throwing his body in their head first. He's playing in the backfield, which he did that at Penn State. He played a little free safety at Penn State, so it's not foreign to him. We still get Brisker in a position where he can make athletic plays on the ball. We have Stevenson coming in who, hey, maybe moving to free safety or strong safety is a fresh start for him and can maybe even rejuvenate this guy's career, which hasn't been terrible. It's just he lost focus a lot last year. So maybe a new position will kind of, and to somebody that's already has chemistry with the secondary. Of course, we can replace it in the draft or free agency, but I'm just throwing off a little scenario there. And then, hey, Bobby, what if Will Johnson from Michigan sitting there? That's not a bad scenario. If at 10, the best player available is the best quarterback in the draft, and we take him over there, put him on the other side of Jalen Johnson, and we got Kyler Gordon in the middle. Tyreek Stevenson can step in and play some free safety, and we got Brisker at free safety. That's just a thought. Just a thought, man. I know you shut me down on that last year when I was saying, man, we need to move Tyreek to strong safety, and you were right to shut that down last year. But I think now, with the new regime coming in, let's just keep all of our options open and, maybe consider it. That's all I'm saying. Well, let me know what y'all think. Shout out to Hayes, man. Claws up, bear down.
All right. So why I'm focusing on the safety thing, right, is that it's because of the health of Jaquan Brisker. And not just the health of Jaquan Brisker. It's also because of Kevin Byard having only a 1-year deal left. Now, you're not going to, Tyreek Stevenson is not going to do it. You're not going to move him to safety. And I get it that the secondary can be in a solid enough spot, right? But when you come down to it, you are going to want to maintain the flexibility. What you got by adding Kevin Byard is you got to use Jaquan Brisker more inside and outside the box. It was more fluidity between those two guys. That's what you want to go do as well. Tyreek Stevenson is not going to turn into a safety. When you get into the spot of trying to start changing players' positions to fill needs, it's not going to happen. If the Bears are going to move Tyreek Stevenson to safety, it would have already been done. That's why I say that the safety is a position of need this year for the Chicago Bears because of Jaquan Brisker and his health and the future of Kevin Byard being in question. Even if you do re-sign Kevin Byard, I still think that at his age, you still want another guy there as depth. And maybe that can take over as the starter. So I don't want to get to moving around players. Like Tyreek Stevenson was special at cornerback. You just need to get him back in the game, right? Yeah, you're not going to move. We don't see that movement done a lot now in modern football. So you keep that. Kyler Gordon's still been amazing in the slot. You got Terrell Smith. You got Tyreek Stevenson. You got Jalen Johnson. We're going to see more blitz packages with those guys as well under Dennis Allen. But I think the safety is still a position of need for the Chicago Bears because of the health of Jaquan Brisker, the future of Kevin Byard, and what that's going to be. And we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the Bears don't prioritize it. But I think with some of the safeties that you can get later on in this draft, that's also another reason why you want to focus on it because, yeah, there are going to be maybe that you can take with higher draft picks later on, but there's going to be some really good safeties later on in this draft. We're talking about day 2, day 3 that can become a starter for you. And that's the thing that I look at as the potential there as well with everything else. But you guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.